Hello, hello! I've been waiting for you. I'm Taren S, an old witch who's got some good secrets. And this is the House of Witchcraft. We are a global crossroads tradition embracing both the dark and the light, all that the universe has to offer. Are you ready to brew a little magic? Well, come on in then. Let's brew some. Hello, hello, hello. So excited to see all of you Crossroads witches and other interesting magic folk leaning in on this video. I have Daena, one of our cottage witches, which I know a lot of you asked me about. Where's Daena?
What's up, gangsta witches? Living your best thug life?
She's busy, really. She actually has jobs.
I work a lot.
I was like, I'm not sure about the thug life, but
I'm cool. I'm hip. I'm gangsta.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I grew up in LA.
I'm not. I'm just gonna be quiet now, just because I don't want to ruin the illusion that you are trying to set. Okay.
Welcome to the House of Witchcraft, witches.
I'm so happy to see all of you. And of course, could you please hit the subscribe, notify, and like? We've loved the support. And with that said, today is all about words.
Woo! We love them.
Phraseology. All right. And for a lot of you new witches, new magical folk leaning in, you're hearing a lot of new words for the first time. And so we thought we would make a video and further confuse you.
This is going to be a helpful video, we swear.
On these different words and understanding. I think the first thing I want to say is we all use the words differently.
Yes. Yes.
So your meaning may not be my meaning. Mm-hmm. And I think a prime example of that is when we talk about pagan and neo-pagan.
Yeah.
And why are we saying this, and what's the difference between the two? Mm-hmm. All right. And for some folks, they use them interchangeably because they're like, we're all pagan.
Right.
Why
Same
are we,
thing.
all right. Academia actually started doing this when they were first referencing the new emerging pagan population as opposed to the ancient population. Yes. A lot of early writers that we see in the 60s and 70s, if you read their books, they will use the neo-pagan. Mm-hmm. Because they are differentiating from classical paganism to our modern pagan today. Mm-hmm. All right, now let's go to 2020.
We're in 2021, Taren.
2021, wherever we are.
Let's go to now.
In this moment, what I said earlier is you're finding folks are using them interchangeably. Mm-hmm. We're not using them as that academic difference.
Yes.
There is a difference, but I agree that we're all pagan.
It's the easiest umbrella term.
It is a very large umbrella term too, which is to be aware of that. And that's where I also have there you have the word the New Age is where you will hear folks talking about and understanding. When we talk about New Age, we're talking about things from an Eastern occult philosophy. Mm-hmm. That's where the crystals, the chakras, the chanting mantras, things, and so forth. All right, and you'll have the New Age people are around the pagans, the neo-pagans, whatever you want to call, and that's where you get into the word reconstructionist. You'll see some traditions. Go ahead, do speak.
Oh, I just had the thought of these poor people. We promised that we wouldn't confuse them too much.
That's the thing with words, is that they are out there, witches, and before you assume what somebody is saying, maybe ask a little context, a little background. All right, are they talking pagan in a broad modern sense? Are they talking pagan in an academical, classical sense.
Which nowadays I feel like we're probably going to get more of the new age feel, and we're going to have more people who are falling under that category. But to me, I feel like that's so different from, you know, from ancient paganism and whatnot, and what that used to be called and used to be classified. I mean, for a long time, pagan was basically anything other than Christianity.
Right, and before Christianity, there weren't pagans.
Yeah, they didn't call themselves the pagans. No, they were themselves, their tribes, their groups and whatnot.
They identified to their ethnic or their cultural identification or a name place identificator.
Yes.
But at no point was their broad
we're pagans. Whereas nowadays, we proudly say that we're pagans.
Yes, a lot of us do. But also being aware in the magic community, there are a lot of non-pagan magical folk. Not everybody's pagan, all right? I know, contrary to, but actually, you know, the pagans are a slice of the magical community at large. And within that slice are even more little slices. All right, of where they're at within the modern realm. And then we have other magical communities as well. And to have that awareness when you're talking with someone.
Yeah.
So that you can, like, you know, ask them to explain this a little bit more. If you're like, my word may not be matching your word. Instead of hollering at each other, stop and ask.
Yes. Clarification can help so much.
And another thing that we hear about is our light workers and our mediums.
Yes.
And which are part of the magical community, all right? And I know we're dark witches, so we're over here, light workers over here.
Hey, every dark witch needs a little light witch somewhere sitting around.
As far as they are working within the light, embracing light, of course, mediums in which work with talking with spirits, all right? And typically in the witchcraft community, we have a little bit of a friction there because we believe we can talk to our own spirits. We don't need mediums. No shade against any medium, but any good witch should be able to carry on their own conversation. If you're a new witch, then you need to learn. All right, what was the other? Oh, and getting into the witchcraft, you have the two sides that we discussed. We'll talk about traditional witchcraft.
Yes.
Folkloric witchcraft. And then the pagan witchcraft of Wicca have here in recent years started using the word traditional witchcraft to further confuse us. This is why I believe it. I'm not. I don't. But there were witches before there were Wiccans. A lot of us coming into the community come in via a Wiccan influence because there's so many authors. It's hard not to.
Yes.
But many of us, like me, I did not come in via that influence. I came in via the Conjuring influence. So it was different. But what's happening is, again, understanding these words, okay? Folk magic is considered a form of traditional magic. But also the Gardnerian, Alexandrian, some of the lineaged Wiccans are using the phraseology now, traditional British witchcraft, which is wrong, and I'm saying it. Go ahead, leave it in the comment because I've got to reply. Because we have traditional folklore witches in England. They've been there before Wicca, before Gardner.
Yes.
We already had folk magic there. They're the traditional folk magic folk. Here in America, we have folk magic. They are our traditional people, all right? And it's a shame that there's words are getting, again, this is why I wanted to make this video, because I'm like, what did you just say? Because I'm learning that the words are changing and that different people, if they should change.
Yeah, we're evolving, and as should our vocabulary and our understanding. It just would help if everyone was on the same page.
You think? It will never happen. But understanding that there is a very big difference between our folk magic world and our pagan Wiccan world. All right? These are two very distinct groups of folks that, yes, we do interchange. Yes, we are within our own tradition, have been influenced by modern witchcraft, Wiccan influences. All right? But it's about understanding when you're like, I want to go join a group or I want to go get involved in something, understanding what you're getting involved in.
Yes.
And if that's your flavor. All right? All right, what else do we have on the left-hand path folks. All right, those of chaos magic. You'll hear the LHP, left-hand path. All right? And that is chaos magic. It's a whole different area. Very interesting folks. A lot of folks within that area call themselves magicians.
Yes, that's where that word tends to come into.
And Magistar is another word that you will hear them referencing themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Learning something new in this video today too.
All right. And they're really interesting. And that leans into the magicians and occultist. It's like Crowley was an occultist.
Yes.
All right. We have several very well-known occultists. They are doing high magic, high ritual. It is not a spiritual calling as much as it is a mathematical equation that needs to be solved.
That's why I don't do it.
All right, bad at math?
I like words.
I know, all these words. The next thing we want to talk about is magic with a C versus magic with a K. Why? Well, because we want to differentiate off of stage magic.
And you can trademark it easier.
Oh, okay. See, good to know for all you.
A lot of people have magic with the C. Or more people tend to have magic with the C than K. So if you're out there trying to start a small business called, Daena's Magic Shop Online or something like that, but you just can't get that trademark, throw K in there and see if that'll help.
I did not know that. See, I'm learning something too. But why do we have this? You will see again in our early magic books that it was used with a C, where we see the influence is actually Aleister Crowley is the one that started using it with a K. I use it with a K. Just because Crowley did some bad things doesn't mean everything was bad.
Right, had some good ideas.
There's
some good ideas.
Dark within the light and light within the dark. And so Crowley, he really did that differentiation for modern magic folk to have the magic with a K as a way of identifying it as not stage magic. Now, you do have some folks in the community who are like, no, Aleister Crowley did it. We can't do it. Not, and so they use magic with a C. All right, guys, guess what? You don't have to choose. They're both right. Which one do you want to use? And like she said, think about it for your businesses and also think about how if you're doing information and you want to share it, how this could potentially affect your search.
Because it's also, even if there is a large amount of the community is unaware of the little trick that we use to throw that K in there, but it will also attract older witches who are a bit more aware of that as well too. You're going to ping a little bit more people. You're going to ping more people than you probably won't, which is fine, but it's worth it because there will be people who will see that and know that you're a little bit more into the hip with the community maybe, and it doesn't necessarily mean you are or not, but you're almost solidifying that yes, what I'm doing real magic here. I'm not Etsy, and I'm not shaming Etsy shops or nothing like that, but I mean, there's people who will appropriate anything, including witchcraft now, which is entirely too funny, but it can help differentiate maybe a little bit in that sense as well, maybe.
And again, both are correct. It just depends on which one you want to use, how it resonates, your why and wherefore. And and at the same time, acknowledging that there are folks out there who do spell it different. On some of my videos, sometimes I just put the C up there. just to sort of give honor to the folks that I know don't like the K.
Yeah.
I'm showing a little respect, you know. I said, me personally, in my writings, I always use the K. It's just the way it was brought for me. All right, where are we down to? Oh, magic with a K. We finished up, and we're going to talk about within the Neo-Pagan Wiccans is where you get a lot of the labeling of, you were asking, because I was like, Celtic witches are from Wicca. And you're like, no, they're not. I'm like, yes, they are, because...
Just didn't seem right. Offhand.
Because Irish witches don't call themselves Celtic.
Okay, you're right.
Irish folk magic is exactly called that. Irish folk magic. If I was in Ireland and I was an, Irish witch, I would call myself an Irish witch. I would not use the phrase Celtic. Celtic is commercialized, been put on. People in Ireland do not call themselves Celtic.
Yeah.
All right. And to understand how that came about, there is a difference with the Irish witch versus with the Celtic. And if you are embracing your Celtic roots, I'm not throwing shade at you. I'm just saying, please be aware of where the words came from, how they came into our world, why we're using them. All right, within traditional witchcraft, we don't use all the labels, we just use the word witch. Because that means that's all the labels, because that's what a witch does, is all those things. You're a green witch, you're a kitchen witch.
The majority of us, it's gender neutral as well too, and so
right.
Yeah.
Witch, it's just is. But you find within the Neo-Pagan, the Wiccans is where that dividing down labeling really started coming about hard, where they felt they needed to have these hard identifiers within themselves. And if those are identifiers that you identify with, then you need to have them. But again, I'm talking the origins, how they came into our community, how modern magic witchcraft has evolved, and where these words started at. They did not start in Ireland. And, a kitchen witch is any witch in the kitchen. A green witch is any witch that's in her garden. His garden, their garden, its garden.
Yeah,
all right?
And I feel like the labels can be helpful because they can help really embrace a part of your identity and whatnot, but I also just want to give homage to those who don't fall into any of those labels as well, because I find so many witches, especially nowadays, younger witches coming into, or not even just younger in the sense of age, but just coming into it for their first time in this lifetime, and they get really stuck. It's like, well, I don't know what kind of witch I am. Am I a brown witch? Am I a kitchen witch? I'm an eclectic witch. I don't know what I am. And for those people, I just want to say, you don't need to have a label. You can just be a witch. And those who love their labels, I love that, and embrace it, and you get that kitchen witch shirt and all that, and I totally love that, because it's a part of your identity that you're really being empowered by magic, and that's absolutely beautiful and wonderful, and I want to encourage that. But like I said, I also want to speak to those who, just because I've spoken to so many personally, who get very stuck in this stage of needing to discover what kind of witch they are, and sometimes being a witch is just enough.
And we have to really be careful with the word eclectic.
Yeah.
All right, this is...
fun word.
Well, I'm going to say what I think about the word and how it's been processed over time, is that this is European conquest, colonialism. I can take your shit.
She's got strong feelings.
Yeah, I got some pretty strong feelings about it.
Yes.
All right. Witchcraft by its nature, if I define the word eclectic, witchcraft is eclectic. When I use the word eclectic in front of it, I'm using it as a way to justify taking people's things that may not necessarily belong to me or should be given to me.
And what she's referring to in that, for those who might not be following this part of the conversation, a lot of times people, and this is my experience with it, I'm from Southern California, and so this is the Southern Californian view of what a lot of the eclectic witches, why they fall into that category. And part of me can't even blame them, and it's because, one, there's so many labels, they're searching for so many labels, and it gets overwhelming. And here comes a label that says basically anything. You can be whichever type of witch that you want to be. Now, I still do stand by that statement, but there is such a beauty that comes to finding your roots or finding that part of your soul that's sparked or empowered by magic and diving into that and spending the time to focus on one tradition at a time. And I'm going to use that phrase, at a time, because you can come back 20 years from now and say that through my experience, I have worked with Nordic witches who have taught me how to work with runes, and I've worked with conjuring people who have taught me how to work with herbs and things of that nature, and combined that into the witch that I am now and the knowledge that I have now. But what she's referring to is a trend that is happening right now, especially on social media, where people are, for lack of a better words, taking from each different type of tradition, and instead of focusing on where and why those things that they're taking comes from, they're simply taking, and by doing that, you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to really learn and to really understand why those traditions were formed. And it's things that can't be learned in a day. I mean, I'm a year and a day into many different paths and traditions and things of that, because we're just constantly learning. But I definitely feel that the new version of Eclectic Witch is definitely being used from witches who are overwhelmed and needing to have a label, and then the culture is turning it into an okay thing to just go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this, instead of taking the time with each of this and that and this. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, she said real nicely what I blurted out earlier really quickly on the Eurocentric, conquest, colonialization. I can come take this because I'm in a place of privilege, and not understanding that this is part of those underlying institutions, the messages that we're being fed. I agree with you. A lot of people aren't even aware that they're doing it.
Yes.
All right, first of all, I don't think this is being done. No, I think it might be a small percentage. I think the vast majority are just following along the rules of society.
Yes.
And what I'm asking is for you to rethink that. And when you use that word, to really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because we are all part of a blend. I'm part of a blend. At the end of every one of these videos, I say 4 words to give honor to the folks that created this whole funky gumbo Taren S blend. All right? Like she said, she has journeys where she has these blends, and so she is going to give honor to each of these seasons, mm-hmm. each of these experiences, all mm-hmm. right? But it's based in what I actually did, not sitting there reading a book.
Yeah, it was either being a part of community or being blessed enough to have people close to me that were a part of those communities. And from what I've learned from each one of those different vast ones over my time actively being a witch, it's just, there's so much that comes from that that's so wonderful. But to the extent I still won't also say, I practice as a witch and I practice a traditional witchcraft, and so when I do my rune workings, I very specifically say that I got these runes from a Nordic witch and she taught me how to work with them, and she is an amazing and blessed individual, and giving that honor back to them, not claiming that it's mine and Daena's runes and these are witches' runes. They ain't witches' runes.
But you have that
yes,
that personal connection.
To bring the honor back.
Where it was given to you by I mean, she really is a Norse witch. She's Norwegian. Her family's still there. But to be able to that is firsthand knowledge. Through the culture, this is what was gifted to me. I can use it and share it, but like you said, I always tell my stories. Mm-hmm. And that's where
and I feel like we're losing that in eclectic witchcraft. We're losing that
stories.
The what's the citing? We're losing the ability to cite where we learned and how we learned it and why it's important. And by losing that, we're losing the honor, reverence, and respect.
Yes. And so it's if you want to get up in a flavor, go find firsthand folks that are doing it. Go read primary sources. Don't read other people's interpretations. Mm-hmm. And we are going to go to another section
before
to talk
this simply
about,
becomes the eclectic witch video.
Before we just keep, I think we said it, what needs to be said. And I want to flip over to some more phrases which are just as fun and triggering.
Word.
I know, they're words, right? And that's what it's about, is understanding words trigger people.
Yes, words trigger people.
And when I say the word, what I'm thinking, and when you say the word and what you're thinking, and the next 3 words we're going to use are black, gray, and white.
Oh my god.
Y'all.
We're so spooky here doing our spooky black magic. Spooky.
These are 3 common words you'll hear to describe different witches. Some will identify as I am a white witch, others will say I am a gray, and some will say they are dark.
And I know at points we said in this video we are dark witches.
Right, and we joke about it. Because I'm like, we're not, but...
It's just our humor.
But the way that the modern community defines us, yes, we are. What does all of this mean? I'm not so sure between the difference between the gray and the black, to be honest. I get the white witches say that they only do good magic. They're like Mary Poppins on steroids.
Yes, white witches from, and again, this is coming from my Southern California, and her, where are you from? She's from South somewhere.
I'm from South Carolina.
It was more fun to just say from the South somewhere. But, so these are our interpretations of these words and how they've impacted us within our magic community. From what I've experienced, anyone who looks at a light witch, love our light witches, first and foremost. Someone out there has got to get those angels to work with us, is all I'm saying.
Yes, they work a lot with angels, with blessings.
Numbers, healings, things of that nature.
But see, so do we.
I know, we're getting to that. So that is what's considered the light witch. Now, I'm going to go to the drastic dark witch. A lot of times, any witch who says that she's willing to do a sour jar or a hex on someone who did her, you're a dark witch, and whatever you do is going to come back to you 3 times, and how dare you, and you should just bless them. And yes, if that's your magic and all you do, I mean, that's amazing to have that ability in you to bless the people in your life who have hurt you. First and foremost, that's just an amazing ability. But for us, a lot of times we view it as, my karma is my responsibility. And so if I do some spell or some curse or something like that, I feel, or if I have a sister witch next to me, the people within my coven, people I know and trust, who say, I'm going to hex a man. The first thing that comes to my mind is, you've thought about this. You have really thought about this. And this is the conclusion that you have come to. A lot of times people assume that dark witches are just hex, 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 curse, curse, curse. We're like hexing Oprah. You get a hex, you get a hex, you get a hex. I hope Oprah don't sue us for saying her name. But that's not what we do. And that's not what dark witches are, but that's the stereotype of dark witch.
They typically, you'll hear the phraseology working after midnight. Mm-hmm. That all blessings are done before midnight, all curses are done after. Mm-hmm. This is old Americana folk magic. Mm-hmm. And so they'll be like, what time are you going up in the graveyard? And if you say, I'm going after midnight, they know you're cursing. Mm-hmm. If you say you're going up early, they know you're doing good workings. Mm-hmm. But that's where this time is coming from with the black witches. This is where I was saying I don't quite get the difference between a gray witch and a black witch.
The gray witch, I think, is the witch that will only casually, or like only if threatened. Like the gray. But
a good dark witch. Mm-hmm. Cursing and hexing is so far down our list of ways to handle a situation. It's like we got to get to page 17. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really so far away from how we view things. I think where this is the one thing, like the white witches, I only work in the light, I only do good things. And they say that if you do anything bad, that it'll come back on you 3 times. Whereas within folk traditions, I don't care if you're white or a dark witch, what it is that if you do something, if I do a cursing, I'm supposed to do it 3 times as much at you so you don't mess with me. Mm-hmm. Our rule of 3 is let me hit you 3 times as hard if you mess with me. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's where they get their dark witches, because we're like, not only am I going to smack you, but I'm going to smack you as hard as I can, so you never.
If you're going to make me go through all this goddamn effort to curse you, it's going to be worth it, because curses are pain in the butts. Those are not a healing spell. Boom, you get a candle. It's beautiful. You do some nice meditation. Boom. Do you know how much effort?
And all the energy work up, and then the whole cleanup afterwards.
I'll get so upset if you make me curse you.
And so it's so, like I said, it's so far. But when we talk about what's a white witch, a gray witch, and a dark witch. I keep saying a black witch, and I'm like, no, we have black witches. They're beautiful, beautiful folks.
Yeah. In our experience, our black witches here, we work with spirits, we work with energies that maybe other people don't want to touch upon. But that's really only the difference, in my opinion.
I think it depends. This is again to when somebody says, I'm a dark witch. There's a lot of definitions. When somebody says, I'm a gray witch, there's a lot of definitions. I'm a white witch. And you need to get context from that person. Mm-hmm. There is no universal, all white witches are this, all gray witches are this.
You're not a real white witch if you can't do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram.
In reverse. You know, and to be a dark witch, you have to do this as a qualifier. Dark witches, typically what we will work, we believe in righteous vengeance. Like I said, our idea of karma is smacking you 3 times as hard so you don't mess with me. And you now know what karma feels like. I love it when somebody's like, karma. And I'm like, bring that karma here. Let me hit you 3 times with it so you know what it feels like. That way you never got to worry about talking to me about your karma. It is, yes, we are aware of energies. Yes, we were talking when you're doing that type of working, you do a lot of grounding, shielding, and protecting. Please do not go off and...
Please don't go hex crazy.
Don't do that. We don't, and we're dark witches.
Right. God's sakes.
You know, we'll talk about that. And then even in our tradition, different traditions use different words. Here you'll say we are crossroads witches.
Which also fall, a lot of times, I interchange crossroad and gray witch. Because I mean, gray is the crossroad for us.
Right.
It's in between white and black.
Right. But you go to other traditions and they're using identifier words. All right. You know, for us, when we're talking about the crossroads within the House of Witchcraft, the first thing is we all come to the circle as individuals first. All right. And so we bring our magic into that beautiful crossroads of all of us. All of our flavors get thrown into a funky gumbo. And that's so. Hope y'all aren't as confused as we go through these different words. And like I said, then I was going to flip over into the folk magic world, where we get to hear the words conjuring, root work, hoodoo, granny, mountain magic.
Did you say granny?
Granny magic.
I don't want to hear about granny magic.
Oh, well, that's actually mountain magic.
Oh, why is that sweet?
You don't know Granny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't mess with Granny, man.
Okay.
Granny's, she's got a still in the mountains, and they're known for their potions, in which are normally like 110 proof.
Oh, God. No, but I think I do want to know Granny Magic.
And Granny Magic is actually, you'll love this, Scots-Irish history in our Appalachia. And because they're isolated small communities, these folk traditions, which initially came from the British Isles, here to America, and they learned that use what you have, use what you need. All right. And there is a very fair amount of culture of folks on Granny Magic. Very scrappy people. I think of like Granny from Beverly Hills Billies.
Ooh, she gonna mess you up.
All right, but they live up in the mountains. They gotta be scrappy.
Yeah, they ain't got much going for them.
And so, but then you'll hear a difference with Appalachian magic. Appalachian magic can be on one side of the mountain and Granny Magic on the other side. It's very regional, all right? And again, we have pockets of Appalachia that have different influences. So your lower Appalachia, which is in Georgia, that magic folk has a different flavor than your West Virginia Appalachia folk. All right. So within mountain magic, that's a broad term with different regional flavors. All right. That's like the word conjure. All right. You find that predominantly within the European communities that were influenced by African American versus Hoodoo, which is the African American that was influenced or has some European in it. They're the other sides of each other that interchange among, but at the same time they do have at points distinct flavors. Where conjuring, you'll see a stronger emphasis on biblical. Within the Hoodoo, you see the stronger influence on ancestral veneration. All right, is the two very big glaring differences. But they run so close, so parallel, that a lot of times they use the word interchangeably. All right, and then they'll use the word hoodoo to think that's what everyone's doing. And then you're like, no, we're not. Because granny folk do not do hoodoo. All right, they'll get upset if you say that to them. Okay. And then you hear about the root working folk. All right, and we have a whole line of root workers coming out of regions as well. And then during Jim Crow era, when we had the height of the Jim Crow laws, we had a great migration of a lot of black folk leaving the South and going up north. That's why you have Detroit Conjuring. All right, it's because their families went up there.
Detroit Conjuring sounds fun.
Since,
my brain stopped at that and just started.
You're like, ooh, Conjuring in the ghetto.
I come from LA.
But these are the roots, and then you'll hear people talk about, like in Louisiana, we have New Orleans hoodoo, which is different than like plantation hoodoo, which is like for where I'm at, I'm in low country hoodoo, okay? And so they're very similar, but they do have differences, all right? And some folks are using the words the way they were taught to them. So they think they're saying it right.
Yes.
Where you were taught to say it another way, and then you get in a room and yell at each other.
Yes.
And really you're both saying the same thing. All right? And that's why it's so important we talk about all these different words and understanding the magic community is full of folks.
Oh, yes.
All right? We can do a whole nother page of different people. I hadn't got into the vampires yet. All right.
Energetic and real.
Yes, we have both. You know? But being aware the community's large, many different flavors, and we got a lot of different words. And use when you're confused, that moment when you're not in full context with this person is saying, to say, hey, can I explain a little more?
Yeah.
When you say you're a dark witch, what do you mean by that? You know? And ask them. And there is no, you're using it the wrong way. You can't be a dark witch, you know, or, you know.
You've never done a curse. You can't be a dark witch.
I think, you know, it's like you can, like I was talking earlier with the Celtics, you can be a Celtic witch. All right?
Just understand where the terminology comes from. That's almost, and I'll be real quick about it, but in the beginning how we talked about that people nowadays use the word pagan in a very different sense from when the word pagan originated. We have redefined it in our generation, in our day and age. That's a thing that can still happen. Words can still change. They can redefine, they can come to a new meaning and whatnot, but understand where the root of that meaning comes from, the original root of the meaning, why it changed, and if that's something that you are still resonating with.
Yeah, if you want to be part of the change.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that change, but a change happens gradually. And there are going to be people who are going to be confused, so be ready to explain. Don't be frustrated because someone doesn't understand what it is that you're doing. Yeah. There's a lot of sources, there's a lot of information out there, and everyone is just trying their hardest. And it's easy to get defensive because, you know, oh, I thought I was doing it right. Am I doing it wrong? No, I'm doing it right. What I said is right.
I used the word.
Everyone just take a deep breath and have some patience and learn from your fellow witch. If there is anything that I can say from my experience within the magical community, is learn from your fellow witch. And the more diverse witches that you can have around you, the better. That's just going to be amazing. It's going to blow your mind. I was a part of a group for a long time that was part of every different type of the pagan umbrella terms, and at each different sabbat, one got to plan one. And it was just so amazing to see the differences, but also the similarities that come in through all of those. And so yeah, just take a deep breath. If someone's not sure as to what you're doing, if you're not sure as to what someone else is doing, just create a healthy conversation.
And that is, it's so much about learning to respect our differences and celebrate our similarities.
Exactly.
We all come to the circle for magic. All right? For whatever reason, we all have a story before we got there. And just respecting the fact that we all have a story. You don't got to know everybody's story.
No.
You just got to respect they have one.
Yes.
And to be a little gentler and a little gentler with your words. And when someone says something to you, don't assume that their definition is the same as your definition. All right?
That's okay.
You know, and there are, and that's why the video with all these words thrown out there, because I want y'all to know, we got a lot of words in our community.
And if you want expansion on any of what we've talked about today, because even though we have entirely too long of a video filmed today, there is so much more that we could talk on neo-pagans versus pagans, on Wicca versus witchcraft, things of that nature. And if anything that we've sparked today sparked a little bit of confusion or excitement within you, leave it a comment down below and maybe we can expand on it in a future video.
I was like, I think I said enough trigger things.
Comment all the words you were triggered by. And
comment on what you, with it, you know, because I think you really brought it up earlier, Daena. This is just like one witch's opinion, two witches' opinions, all right, you know, and ultimately it's finding your opinion.
Yeah.
All right, witch, and of course this video is too long. So I'm going to end it and tell y'all, go to houseofwitchcraft.com.
We have shirts.
And we have shirts. And of course we have our 13 Moon community, online community of witches all around. We have different events, activities, all sorts of things going on. We would love to have you.
If you don't got a witch 70 miles away, but you got a smartphone, you got a witch close to you.
That's the truth. You gotta love the Matrix. All right, thank you so much, Daena, for coming out here and joining us. I'm always happy when I can get her to come film a video with me. And an extra special thank you to all you witches who have hit the subscribe, who have hit, you know, the like button. Thank you so much. And with that said, I hope y'all have as bright of a blessed day as we're having. And as always, amen, blessed be, ashe, and ebobo.
Bye.
And are we straight?
I think so.
Well, that's it. Are we straight? How funny.
Two of them in the group. Working on converting them.
That's what they say you're doing.
It is the gym. There's an agenda. I finally get to be a part of the agenda. I've been waiting almost 30 years.
All I want to know is I've been hanging out with gay folk for, shoot, I mean, what, 40-some years now. And it ain't rubbed off yet, so you're doing something wrong.
Our agenda's messed up, man. We're working on it.
You gotta work a little harder. I'm still just as straight as I was.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I know. Well, alright, hello! I've been waiting for you and you're late. I want you to know that I've been standing in this cottage because I knew you were showing up. Could you please get your butt in here now? Oh my, hello. Like, we really did try to wait for you, and we thought that, like, maybe but we drank it all. Hey, come on in. Hello. Well, how are y'all doing? You know I'm a Southern Conjuring Witch, and you know what that means? I got some redneck in me. So come on,
Y'all, let's go watch this!